Okay, this video I'm going to go more behind the scenes so you guys can kind of see how this application is working, and then if you guys do need to modify or something, since this application doesn't have a modify mode, kind of how easy it is to do something like that. So I already have this one in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take a look at this information. And so after cross-reference gets added to a text element, we already went over how it adds the text field. But what is that text field really linked to? So I can't link a text field to something in a different file that's not referenced because it has no way of no knowledge of it. So I added it in between item type. So this text field is actually linked to an item type that's attached to this element. So when I select this element and go look at the items, you'll see there's an item called OHDOTXRefs. If I look at it, it has one property, and the property is an array property, meaning I can have multiple entries into that property. And so right now there's only one. And so when I look at, I can see the different properties like the model name, the property name, the file path, the element ID, the property value, the access string, root container name, model ID. All this information is the reference, is the data that's needed to find this value, that this p4.p14. Okay, so this is the location of the file that cross-reference is at, the name of the model inside there, the property that you chose. The access string is kind of what helps find it on that element, and the element ID is right here. So you can see it's linked because if I change this value and I look at the text element, you see that it just changed automatically. So when you run the update in this like update file, bulk update, what it's actually doing is looping through all the entries into this property and finding the element property and comparing its value to the current value, and then updating the current value, which then in return updates the text field. So if I add like another link here, just choose something here. So now with the second link in, if I go and take a look at the properties, we now see that there are two entries. And this one is being affected. So one thing to be careful here is to not ever remove an entry. So if I come in here and I remove this entry, I got kind of lucky here because it shifted down, but sometimes when you delete it, you'll lose this reference because it was pointed to a value that doesn't exist anymore. So just be conscious of that. I really would just recommend you just don't delete anything. Let me undo that. So even if you don't need it anymore, just leave it there. That way you don't mess any other of the references up. So if for some reason your text field loses its association to your item type, say because you deleted one of these entries into the property or something, it's really easy to kind of reassign those. So if you double click on it, first thing, if you double click on that field, it'll open up your fields editor. And so this is if it still has association to the element. If it doesn't, it'll say, hey, don't know where this is supposed to go to. But I can easily come in here and select any of these properties. So if I select that one, you'll see there's the preview, and I hit OK, then it's assigned to that property. But if for some reason it lost that, you can hit Reassign Field. And I think because I'm already assigned to that, it's not going to let me reassign to the same element. But you would get this dialog after you click that element, and then you could pick the property value for the given entry that you want to assign it to. So same goes for if I just wanted to say, if I need to add one back, say I deleted one, say I deleted this 13. Since it's there in the data, I can easily get that back by doing adding a field, clicking on my property, and then going to the given property that I want, which is this one, and I get it right back. So if for some reason you accidentally remove it from the text string, that's kind of how you can add it back pretty simply. So that's the one side of kind of how it's retaining that cross-reference information. Now the other side is when you set up this new link, is this property is how does this get populated? How did it know to only select this? Okay, so that is actually being done by configuration variable. So if I open up my documentation for this, if you look at the bookmarks, there's a configuration options section, and so there's two items here. One is kind of what I just went over with the cross-reference. If you don't use ODOT's workspace, you can set this variable to tell it how to find this cross-reference, but if it doesn't find the variable, then it's going to use the defaults in the workspace. So if you're inside our workspace, you really don't have to worry about the number one part because it's already set inside the app itself. But that does lead to being able to customize it. So if you wanted to I don't know, use this in your own workspace or something, you could create your own item type, and as long as it has the required stuff, you can add more properties in here or in here. You just need to make sure it has the minimum requirements. And that's what this document, that section will go over. This technical details, that section will go over kind of the requirements for what's needed for this cross-reference item type. So now the second part here is how does it find those item types in this search dialog, which I just closed in here. So how does it know, which item type or what data it should populate with? So that is done through the configuration variable, and it is actually two different configuration variables. It's these two bolded words right here, and that is this one's already set inside our workspace, or both of them are already set inside our workspace. So again, if you're using our workspace, you don't have to worry about this setting it, but this at least gives you information of kind of how it's working. So basically this first one, OHDOT sheet item types info. This variable sets three different things. So here's an example. So it sets the name of the dgen lib that the item types are contained inside, and then squiggly, and then a name of the actual item type library that it should look at for these item types. And then the third problem is actually used in different apps, so we're actually not using that. That's like a master item type that contains all the properties. That kind of is setting up, where the item types are. Now, which item types to include inside the library, because your library could have a lot of item types in it. That is what the second thing is used for. It says OHDOT Sheet Manager keyword. So this sets the keyword. So I just right here it's set to OHDOT sheet. So basically what that means is any item type that contains this keyword inside this item type library will be included in the search for how this gets populated. If there's an element inside this model that has any of those item types assigned to it, it will then get included into this instance. So then for that given instance or given element, all of the item types that met that criteria will be listed here. So if you had two item types that met the criteria, you could see two item types here. And then you can expand it down and you can see all the properties. So that's kind of behind the scenes of how it's working. Hopefully that made sense. If not, and you guys are trying to do something with it, let me know. I can help out. But it's pretty much only going to search for sheet item types that have sheets assigned